when you work in the nonprofit sector, at some point in time, our dream was to transform NGOs we supported into small businesses so that they could be sustainable, not rely on continuous support coming from governments or from foundations, etc., etc. And it works actually much better than one might think. But it is still, however, difficult to make a business case for a peace building contribution. And a company needs to have a business model that's sustainable in terms of, there's more income than spending. And hence, when discussing once with an investor how to create a peace tech fund, an idea we had was that we could say this fund invests in tech companies that at least come up with one tech solution that is contributing to peace building, human rights promotion, even though it's not necessarily a product, this specific product, that's economically viable. For instance, you develop a software helping companies to do the human rights due diligence processes that more and more they are obliged to do. This is a software that I think could actually even be economically interesting. And I know there is already software of the kind out there, but it is not necessarily tomorrow already, profitable. And so a company would make that kind of investment, sort of let's say, corporate social responsibility contribution to peace. And that would then be sort of the entry price for being eligible for that peace investment fund. That was the idea. And I think these kind of things, I think there could be a number of investment funds saying it's totally possible that you contribute to a challenge in society that is important, to address. But even though you will not necessarily find a business model that works immediately in a short-term perspective, but by doing so, you're becoming eligible for a specific investment fund. I had a very good dialogue with a huge tech company at some point in time. And what I found out is that although they're really an exemplary company in many ways, but their soft spot was client due diligence. That's not something that's required normally. But what we were saying is, if you could think of who is using and how the products that you develop, the software products you develop, that would be extremely useful. So for instance, if it's a surveillance technology, we all know that, well, the Chinese would say that contributes to security of our population. And then, opposition groups would say contributes to reducing freedom, public space, etc. So that's what I meant before, that you have so often various human rights principles that collide in some way sometimes. And so the question is indeed, when this dual use issues that we have also, not only in the technological space, but in other space like arms, etc. It's this dual use issue is very, very tricky. And what we were trying to say, not really having the answer, but just please consider thinking of how to sort of monitor the application of your products and to not necessarily to take action, but sort of anticipate, what could happen with them, and then maybe say no to a client, to a government, for instance, that has a very bad human rights track record. By the fact that you have more and more a digitalized society, if I may say so, and that many things are happening online nowadays, the impact of social media, influencers, etc., that also influences, for instance, a peace process. Meaning that when you're organizing, peace negotiations, you are part of a mediation process in order to find out what really the public is thinking about this. It's no longer just sufficient to analyze media articles. You have to have another kind of actor analysis going online and using the tools that exist nowadays to assess the debates that are happening around social media. And that gives you a better idea of where a wider audience stands vis-a-vis the process you are involved in. So you need because these tools have an impact offline, and I'm not sure I understand actually the question to what extent human rights online have an impact offline, because for me it's an evidence that they do have an impact offline. So I think you need tools to understand this digital impact, and companies definitely are one of the responses to create these tools.